Hi, good evening. Welcome along. This is the Transfer Show. There are less than 21 days of the window to go. And are we about to see a Premier League scramble for one of the best goalkeepers in the world? Well, we might, because there is significant news on Gianluigi Donnarumma coming up. Dharmesh Sheth is with me. And we've been with Arsenal today. And after Mikel Arteta said that they're actively looking at options in the market, we'll have a look at who could leave and who could come in. Top new signing for Sky Sports. All right, you're back with the Transfer Show. Arsenal will kick off their Premier League season at Manchester United on Sunday. Mikel Arteta has brought in 6 players already this summer, including an out-and-out striker in the form of Viktor Gyökeres. So, are they done? Well, our reporter Gary Cottrell has more.
A busy 10 weeks in the transfer window so far for Arsenal. They brought in, haven't they, about half a dozen players in every position: goalkeeper, defence, midfield, up top. So will they be cutting back? Will they be trimming the squad? As you can see, the gardener is doing to that bush there, trimming that bush back. Will players be trimmed from the playing squad at Arsenal? Well, of course, I think there will be players moving out, players who are back from being on loan last season, players who perhaps are now a little bit surplus to requirements. Reiss Nelson being linked with Fulham, Zinchenko, whose minutes last season compared to the season before were very limited. Vieira was out on loan, wasn't he, last season? Now back, expect him to go out again. Trossard, Leo Trossard, that's a difficult one because, of course, with all the changes, with all the players that have come in, he might find getting a start, getting many minutes with Arsenal more difficult than he ever has before. But he could bring in good money to the club if they do want to strengthen any more, balance the books a little bit. Although he is a popular player with Mikel Arteta, a good squad player, versatile, always willing to come in and do his very best, even if he's not in the starting lineup. And then Gabriel Jesus, what about his future with the arrivals that we've had at the club? Still injured, of course, still not back from that injury he picked up in January. But is there any mindset for him to leave the club and find football elsewhere when he is fit and playing again, if he is fit and playing again before the end of the transfer window? And in terms of ins, well, Eze, that name won't go away, will it? Particularly with the changes that Crystal Palace will now have to make to their planning with the news today that they're not going to be in the Europa League. They won't get the money into the club that they thought. They can't offer the standard of football in Europe, certainly, to the players that they've got. So would that make it more likely that Crystal Palace would sell some of their stars, including Eze, and Arsenal, we know, very interested in that player?
Gary Cottrell there. All right, Dharmesh, of the names that Gary mentioned, who are the most likely to leave Arsenal?
I can't put which is more likely or not. All of them could leave if they get the right offers. Gary made the point about Alexander Zinchenko. I think Arsenal would listen to suitable offers for him. Fulham are still pushing to sign Reiss Nelson. That one is definitely still on the table, even though it has taken quite a while because we've been talking about that for the best part of 6 weeks. Stuttgart still pushing to sign Fabio Vieira. Sambi Lokonga, surplus to requirements at Arsenal. And Gary made a great point there about Leandro Trossard, because I don't think Arsenal would actively look to sell, but it might be in Trossard's head, Gyökeres has arrived. Sometimes they play me up front. Well, I'm further behind the pecking order there. I was usually the first choice maybe when Martinelli wasn't playing to play on the left side. Now Noni Madueke can play all along the front line. So maybe he might look at it himself with 2 years left on his contract. Is this the time maybe to go? Look, Arsenal beat Athletic Club on Saturday. Reiss Nelson, Lokonga, Zinchenko in the squad, unused substitutes. Trossard and Vieira not in the squad at all.
Yeah. Gary mentioned Eberechi Eze. Do we think that could happen?
Look, it's difficult at the moment because I think the focus at the moment is on sales. But I think what Arsenal want to do is be in a position that if an opportunity comes along, that they are in position to be able to act on that opportunity in the final 3 weeks. And Arteta has said it already, even after the games in pre-season. The noises he's making is that maybe they haven't finished in this window. There's been, we spoke about Rodrigo from Real Madrid earlier on in the on the show. He's another player that Arsenal have kept an eye on throughout this transfer window as well. So it might not just be Manchester City, but Arsenal looking at what Rodrigo potentially because of that area that they want to strengthen.
Sure. Well, Arsenal could come up against Benjamin Sesko this weekend, a player, of course, they looked at signing before Viktor Gyökeres. Well, as for Sesko, he chose Manchester United over Newcastle, as we know, and in his first interview with the club, he told us why.
First of all, of course, because of the club. It's just the historical club that is unbelievable. For me, the team is great. It's getting better and better, and that's why also there is just stuff that it made you like come there. You know, it gives you this already kind of, let's say, energy that you want to be part of. And yeah, I think it's just a great project in general, and can't wait to start, definitely.
Did Ruben Amorim play a part in that decision, obviously wanting to come here and play for him?
Of course, I think this is a really important part in general in football. Great guy, great coach, and so we're going to start. It's important.
Right, Dharmesh. So, Sesko in. Does that mean Højlund out?
It doesn't look good for Højlund with regard to his Manchester United future, but there are clubs that are interested in him, not least AC Milan. They remain in talks with Manchester United over the signing of the Danish international. Milan, for their part, they want to do a loan deal with an option to buy. I think Manchester United would prefer a permanent deal for Rasmus Højlund, or at least have some sort of permanent element attached to any kind of loan deal. And I think they would probably consider offers of around £40 million. Now, that could come in two forms. If they were to sell him now and get £40 million, I think they'd consider it. If it was a loan with an option, then maybe they can be quite creative with it, a loan fee, and then the rest of that £40 million made up in an option price later on down the line. I think it's being made clear to Højlund now. I don't think he's under any illusions that maybe Manchester United do want him out. He was an unused substitute in United's pre-season friendly against Fiorentina at the weekend. Ruben Amorim actually chose to play Mason Mount in a false nine ahead of Rasmus Højlund.
That's a massive sign, isn't it?
It is. And I'm sure he's aware of everything that's going on. He's clearly seen Sesko come into the club and him not getting much match time, even though he was the only striker that was available to them that day. But anyway, he has said he wants to stay and fight for his place. But it's now becoming abundantly clear that he's joined the likes of Jadon Sancho, Garnacho, Malacia, Antony, and previously Rashford as players that United would want to get out of the club.
So the famous five became six, it became four, didn't it? Because
it's back to five again.
Back to five, yeah. Goodness. All right, what about any more people joining United? Anything else?
Well, we should say that following Sesko's arrival, I think that the focus, even before Sesko arrived, was on sales. Not necessarily making those sales before players come in, but having an assurance and a knowledge that before the end of the window, some of these sales would happen. We've mentioned Rasmus Højlund and AC Milan. Borussia Dortmund still pushing to sign Jadon Sancho. You've got Chelsea and Alejandro Garnacho. Manchester United are definitely expecting a formal offer from Chelsea for Garnacho. Real Betis, yes, they are still trying to sign Antony, however difficult that deal looks. So that would be the priority. However, rather like I said about Arsenal before, if a unique market opportunity was to come along in the remaining 3 weeks of this window, Manchester United want to be in a position where they would be able to do this unique market opportunity. Now, throughout this window, we've talked about areas that they wanted to strengthen, which they have done, particularly in the front line. It's an entire new front three. But central midfielder, talk of that has not gone away. And I don't know whether it's been accentuated, even though United have played OK during pre-season. Some of the criticisms aimed towards them have been the makeup of that central midfield. They are interested in Carlos Baleba from Brighton and Hove Albion. They like the player a lot. They've explored the conditions of a deal. It is going to be a very, very difficult deal to do for many reasons, not least Brighton have got no intention to sell. They don't want to sell. They're under no pressure to sell. He's still got 3 years left on his contract. They've got an option for a further year, and they would want to charge. I mean, some people have even talked about touching 100 million here. So
that's exactly what United need, though, isn't he?
You could argue that that is what they would need. But as far as Brighton are concerned, not for sale, do not want to sell. However, he hasn't featured since July, mid-July, in pre-season, but that's because of a minor knee issue. And I think a lot of people made more of that when he missed the last game when the United interest came, but it was for the same reason that he'd missed the previous 2 games as well.
Damish, everybody knows that there are 5 players at United surplus to requirements. Does that put United in a really weak negotiating position?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think it's any secret that Manchester United wanted to do business for these players, but the way that football works now in the finances, it's not just about transfer fees. It's about getting wages off the books as well, so that they can go into the market and perhaps do deals using how PSR works. Amortised over a length of a contract is how the transfer fee would be paid. So more and more, if players on high wages, that has become almost as important as when you get the transfer fee as well, even though United would want to maximise the transfer fee. But clearly, of course, when it almost made public knowledge, not directly from the club, of course, that you want to sell 5 or 6 players, clubs might say, well, we'll just wait then. Wait towards the end of the window and then United will get desperate. Even though Ruben Amorim has said all the right things publicly, if that doesn't happen, we'll reintegrate them into the squad. It's not a problem. But clearly, they want them out. They want to maximise their money. They want to get the wages off the books so that maybe, just maybe, later on in the window, they might just go back in to bring another player in.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll go back to Newcastle and discuss what's been a really tough window for Eddie Howe so far. But with reinforcements on the way and time running out for Liverpool to get Isak, is the tide changing? See you in a bit.